Hello and welcome back to the Next Best Bet, episode 90, and it is full of football. We've got the NFL, we've got college football, and we've got some action going on as we are recording right now. Let's do a quick hindsight with Higgins. I only gave out one pick in episode 89. I thought the Bucs were going to trounce the Giants. Now, Brett, we're going to talk about this game a little bit more. You and I were on opposite sides of this game, though. You were right. I was wrong. As a Giants fan, I can't be mad that I was wrong, but I was really surprised with how sloppy that Bucs team seemed to look and how good the Giants defense contained them.
I think this is the first time you've ever told me you were wrong. So I want that. I'm going to record that and save that for a later date. No, I'm just messing with you, Higgins. Yeah, the Giants look good early. Unfortunately, they couldn't close it out late. But I had a few more picks. Buffalo's up big right now at Northern Illinois, winning 42-16. Although Northern Illinois is in the red zone, so threatening to score as we speak. But my Levy lock did come through for me. Higgins, Western Michigan, won big at Akron. Like we spoke about on the last episode, Western Michigan, one of the better teams in the MAC. Akron, the worst team in the MAC, probably. So, I took the points in that one. It was a big bit of a risk for the first game of the year, but it paid off for me.
Now, I'll make sure if you're watching our podcast episode, I would have highlighted that Buffalo bet that Brett has with whether he wins or loses that bet based on how that game ends up going. He gave you the update of it being 42-16 with a team in the red zone right now. Brett, we also gave out the odds of another scenario that was going on after episode 89 and before episode 90, the presidential election. You couldn't bet on it in America. You could bet on it overseas. It was breaking records across there. We still don't have an answer for that, so we'll wait to see what's going on with that. The UK is still accepting bets on that because of that, so that record-breaking amount of bets is just rising. However, we do have some sports betting news involving the election, and it's going to be our Beginner's Boulevard because we're not going to talk about a term. We're going to talk about 3 states where people that should be tuning into Next Best Bet might want to start paying attention to Beginner's Boulevard because they can now legally bet within their state. Maryland, South Dakota, and Louisiana.
Welcome to the Next Best Bet podcast, guys. I expect our South Dakota listeners to increase exponentially here, Higgins. But no, I think it would be a good idea. Like, just give out some tips to new bettors, and I think probably the tip you and I think is most important for new bettors is bankroll management and just understanding how to manage your bankroll, only betting a certain percentage of your bankroll, knowing that this money isn't always coming back to you.
Yes, it is also important to note that there is active legislation in another 3 states, in Hawaii, Massachusetts, and Ohio. They're trying to figure out the way through their legislative branch on how to implement sports betting. 25 states in America now have sports betting at some capacity, whether it be through the Oregon lottery, like what happens here in Oregon, or whether it be through an open market, like what happens in New Jersey with FanDuel, DraftKings, and things like that. So, important to keep that in mind. Important to, if you live close to the border and you live in bordering states like Pennsylvania and New Jersey, maybe check on both of those books, even if it's with DraftKings or FanDuel, and find the best lines and go line shopping a little bit. The more states become available, the more books there are, the more you can line shop and find the best value for you.
Yeah, and maybe you just move. Everyone just move.
Only live in a state with sports betting. That's the new next best bet
Well,
rule.
I gotta be honest, Higgins, and I know we're not a weed podcast or anything, but New Jersey has become pretty enticing for those living in New York City.
Hey, Oregon took it a step further. They decriminalized all hard drugs and legalized the psilocybin therapeutic use for like PTSD and things like that with veterans.
Oh
So
my God.
Oregon took it a step farther than New Jersey even did. But like you said, we're not a drugs podcast. Let's move on from that. Let's talk about our NFL that we have going on because interesting football week. I put the Thursday line there, Brett, and when I did, you asked me why am I even bothering. Now, I was so absorbed with what was going on with the election, I didn't hear the news about the COVID tests that are jeopardizing this game.
Oh man, we've already got 4 players out due to COVID in this one, and the 49ers were out of their facility on Wednesday. So, if you're listening to this podcast, you may have more news than us at the current moment where the game may be on, the game may be off. We have no idea if the game's going to be on or off. So, uh, as a betting podcast, we have to stay away from this one, Higgins, because it would only be bad advice to jump on a line with this much uncertainty.
Yes, now the game is still scheduled as of Wednesday night while we are talking about this. It's supposed to take place at 5:20 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday night. Now things can change. There were 4 players that were placed on San Fran's COVID IR list. Like you said, they did not end up going to their facility today. They closed that down. So we'll see with the such short time frame if they end up playing tomorrow or not, or if 4 players going to the COVID list on such short notice ends up getting that game pushed to maybe Sunday.
Right, and not to mention, earlier in the week, 4 players on the Packers also put on the COVID list. So just so 2020. Really, just the 2020 just does not stop here.
I wouldn't be surprised if this game does get postponed, pushed to maybe Sunday, or maybe we get lucky and get a doubleheader Monday like we have a few times this week. But let's talk about our Sunday slate, Brett, because we have some interesting games here, and I'm going to start off by talking about a 3-team money line parlay that I lined up here and I like. Now, it's 2 really big favorites and an underdog. I'm taking the Chiefs over the Panthers, who are 10.5 point favorites. They're minus 585 on the money line. I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 14-point favorites and minus 855 on the money line. And then the spot that I'm getting my value at is I am taking the Saints over the Bucks. That's right, the Saints won in Week 1 against the Bucks in New Orleans. They're going to go to Tampa Bay and they're going to do it again. I think they're going to show up on Monday or on Sunday Night Football, and they're plus 185 on the road on the money line right now. And adding that to the Chiefs and Steelers, who are heavy favorites, makes it a plus 272 3-team parlay, which I think is some tremendous value considering it's 3 teams and you're nearly getting plus 300 odds.
There you go. And I love the Steelers so much. I'm just taking them minus the 14 points, Higgins.
Not
I
a
said
bad call.
I said screw it. The Cowboys are starting a guy from their practice squad, their 4th starting quarterback on the year. No way am I betting anything on Dallas. They'll be lucky to score 9 like they did the other week. So I I love Pittsburgh. I think Kansas City should cover, but I am a little nervous with McCaffrey coming back from Carolina. Mike Davis played pretty well, but Christian McCaffrey's another animal, and Bridgewater and those receivers have looked pretty good, Higgins. So 10.5's a big number, and I don't think the Panthers are as bad as we thought they might be coming into this season.
I agree. I'm staying away from that 10.5, partly because of the Chiefs getting surprised by the Raiders in that loss that they had earlier this year. Uh, Kansas City is a fantastic team. I think they should still win that game. I don't know if it's necessarily the touchdown and a field goal line that the sports book currently has it at. If it gets down under 10, maybe I'll find myself on it. If it gets to like 8.5, maybe.
Yeah, throwing it in the money line parlay makes sense from that perspective for sure.
Another team I was thinking about throwing into this parlay, but I didn't want to cross over my parlay with my spread picks that I'm giving out here, because then if one team loses, it can kind of just all come crumbling down for me, so I tried to keep them separate. But the Ravens-Colts game, Ravens minus 2.5, and in Oregon, that is at minus 103 right now. So I'm gonna grab that before it gets to the full -3 and it turns into a push of a field goal. But you're talking field goal wins. Justin Tucker's the Ravens kicker, And you look at the quality of wins versus quality of losses for these Ravens versus Colts teams. Who have the Ravens lost to? Kansas City and Pittsburgh. Who have the Colts lost to? They've lost to Cleveland and Jacksonville. Not necessarily the same quality of loss on your schedule for two teams that are both 5-2. So for that reason, I'm taking Baltimore. I'm taking Lamar Jackson and crew who are licking their bruises a little bit after that Pittsburgh loss last week, and I think they're going to come back right here. Especially, I mean, Baltimore, Indianapolis, there's some history there with the Indianapolis Colts used to be in Baltimore.
It's definitely some indirect history there. They just got up and moved to Indy, and the rest is history. But uh, that's pretty funny. Do you think that comes into the handicap at all? There's no way, right? Like rivalry game.
I remember like Ray Lewis and Peyton Manning took that kind of seriously, but also I just loved watching those games because Peyton Manning audibling on one side and Ray Lewis audibling on the other side was just a beautiful pre-snap chess match to watch between those two guys. It was hysterical, but
Oh
I don't know
yeah.
if it plays as big of a role as maybe it used to back in like the 70s or 80s, like shortly after it necessarily happened.
Yeah, I think kind of what's funny is like, do you think it was a bigger deal Baltimore moving to Indianapolis, or do you think it was a big deal when the Browns left and moved to Baltimore in the middle of the night? Like, and and now all these cities have teams, so I guess there's no real bad blood anymore. But it's kind of funny how that that all
I'm,
happened there.
I'm sure there's fans that still remember.
Oh, there are definitely some older fans that still hate the Indianapolis Colts because of that for sure. I'm gonna be on a rivalry game also, Higgins. An old rivalry game as well. The New York Giants versus the Washington Football Team. And I've been saying it all year. When the Giants are underdogs, they are winning these games against the spread. Well, guess what, Higgins? We have the Giants as dogs again versus a team they actually already beat this year. So I'm going to take the Giants plus 2.5 on the road versus Washington. They thought the Giants played pretty well against Tampa Bay, and I look forward to them hopefully being able to score enough to beat Washington outright. But if not, keep it close enough to lose by less than a field goal.
Yeah, and the only win on the season that the Giants have is against Washington in a 20-19 game. Interesting note about that game, the Giants were 2-point favorites in that game because it was in New York, obviously. Now they're 2.5-point underdogs. So we'll see how if home field advantage means anything here. But interesting that the one team the Giants have gotten a win against so far this year, they're not being given respect in the odds because of it during the rematch.
Yeah, and again, I would never tell anyone to take the Giants as a favorite. I don't even think I took them as a favorite versus Washington, but when they're dogs, they're playing well, and they're dogs in this one. Another team I would never bet on as the favorite is the Atlanta Falcons. Just from what I've seen this year and over the last 3 years, but the Falcons are -4 at home versus the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are coming off a great fourth quarter comeback. I think they're riding high. I think this team is probably riding at its hottest it's been offensively in really 2 full seasons, Higgins. So I'm going to ride that momentum and take them +4. I don't know if this is the best bet. It feels a little contrarian, to be honest with you, which is kind of why I like it almost a little more. Like, who's betting on the Denver Broncos? This guy.
Well, Denver should give you a little confidence after Drew Lock refused to give up last week on that game-winning drive against the Chargers. That was a heartbreaker to me and was our Moneyline Magic in episode 89. The other game that I'm going to be on was another game that I was considering for that parlay that I mentioned at the top of our NFL segment, and it's the Raiders-Chargers game. Speaking of the Chargers as well, I don't like the Chargers in this game. I think the Raiders are going to win, even though they are 1-point underdogs here. And so I am going to take that free point because being given a point means more than getting minus 105 on the money line to me, basically. So I'll take that, and maybe it's a push because the Chargers lost by 1 point last week. The Raiders have some good quality wins, and I think that Las Vegas is just the better team in this matchup. I mean, Herbert is a great quarterback. I think that the Chargers are going to do great things. I don't think it's necessarily going to happen this year for them. So the Raiders at 4-3, they're 3-1 on the road this year, and the Chargers are only 1-2 at home. So Las Vegas traveling back to play in California once again. I would not be surprised if the Raiders come out with a victory here.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I stand on that game. I think you give a lot of sound reasoning. That's just a stay away from me. Herbert's been really impressive. That team has, we mentioned it on the last podcast, but blown double-digit leads in 4 straight games. They're hurting right now. I don't know if they get it right or if that's just what this team is. Just they cannot defend down the stretch. I have no read on the Chargers right now.
Before we do leave the NFL, I will give out one lean. It's the Dolphins-Cardinals game. I'm not picking on this today because it feels just slightly like a trap. I mean, I really like this Cardinals team. I think Kyler Murray is going to win this game, and I think it's going to be a lesson of sorts for Tua, who has a similar game style to Kyler, the way that he is mobile, has a strong arm, still a pass-first quarterback, but can use his legs if he needs to. I think Kyler's going to get the better of him here. Tua didn't have a great game last week. The Dolphins still escaped with a win, though. Very big for them there. I think that Arizona will grab it. I don't know if they'll necessarily grab it by 4.5 points, though, so that's why I'm staying off the spread. And at minus 215, it was a little too high for me to want to throw into my parlay.
I got you. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking forward to Sunday. Saints Bucks Sunday Night Football. The return of Antonio Brown. The return of Michael Thomas potentially. Lots of fireworks in that one. That should be a great one. I'm sure I will have money on that come Sunday because it's going to be Sunday Night Football that I'm really excited for, and I'm going to want to have a little action.
Will you have been waiting all day for Sunday night?
I think that one is fair to say that for. Like, there are some games where you're just like, Jags Texans. Nah, I'm good. I could have been okay. But Saints Bucks, I think you can say you've been waiting all day for that matchup.
Especially since Breeze just took back the career touchdown record from Brady. I don't know if Brady ended up taking that right back from him on Monday night. He might have, but that Breeze-Brady duel in the record books for career quarterback records is pretty interesting. So that should be a very, very good Sunday Night Football game. Speaking of Tom Brady, though, let's move into our Moneyline Magic and talk about that Monday night game, Brett, because that Giants defense really stepped up a lot. They kept the Giants in that game for a while, and Daniel Jones was in a position to drive the Giants down the field and potentially send the game to overtime.
Well, Higgins, I want to say Daniel Jones did the best job ever on Monday night, putting together a case for you and a case for me as why you think he should never play quarterback for the Giants again, and why I think, you might have your guy. The throw to Golden Tate to put them in a place to go for 2 to tie the game was one of the best throws you could make.
A better catch than a throw.
That's a whatever. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. That is a horrible take. You have every wide receiver on TV telling you how great of a throw it is. Every quarterback how great of a throw it is. The next throw he makes is, if you want to criticize Daniel Jones, that's the throw you criticize Daniel Jones on. He was late. It was on the inside. He didn't put it in the right spot. All of that. And, honestly, him being late almost led to a pass interference there, but I think the refs made the right call picking up the flag. I still won my bet, so I was okay with the flag being picked up, and we move on. But the throw to Tate was a big time throw. The throw to Lewis at the end was not a big time throw. He had a few bad interceptions in this one, but up and
One
down
of which
game.
Darius Slayton was wide open on the other side of the field.
Hey, definitely an up and down game, no doubt about it. But for you to criticize the Tate throw, I mean, come on, man.
It was a tongue-in-cheek criticism. I mean, obviously, it's a touchdown, but I think that is the credit goes to a receiver in that scenario. That was a fantastic, superb catch by Golden Tate. Is it the only place Jones could have probably placed the ball for that touchdown? Yes. Now, the Dion Lewis 2-point conversion was thrown a second and a half too late. Dion Lewis had the jump on the linebacker who had to move all the way across the formation because it was man coverage. That ball needs to be thrown before Lewis even crosses the goal line and turns to back towards Jones. And Jones kept the ball for about a minute and a half. I agree with the ref's decision to pick up that flag, mainly because you can't let that scenario go into the ref's hands as a player. That needs to be control your own destiny type scenario. If the refs call it pass interference, great. It probably could have been called pass interference, but you can't be mad at them for not calling it a pass interference. That needs to be a make your own destiny type of scenario for Daniel Jones, and he almost got lucky by being given a free play, but it wasn't enough.
I am a pessimistic fan. You hate your teams.
Daniel Jones is a bad quarterback. What can I say?
Hey man, I am the pessimistic fan, so like I'm not gonna sit here and be like, don't be pessimistic on your teams because, hands up, I'm that guy. But boy, you just hate this guy.
I want Justin
It's
Fields
personal.
because
You know the Michael Jordan meme, and that's when it became personal. The Giants picked Daniel Jones, and you took it personally. You said they
yes.
hate you. You just, oh man. Let's go to our ad.
Let's go to our ad. This episode is presented by Wild CBD. Wild produces the best tasting edibles on the market using real fruit and all natural flavoring with flavors inspired by the Pacific Northwest, high quality ingredients, real fruit, and consistent dosing. Wild has become one of the leading cannabis edible producers in the country. Wild's new CBD line currently offers real fruit infused gummies in blackberry, huckleberry, lemon, and raspberry, and CBD infused sparkling water in raspberry, lemon, blackberry, and blood orange. Each gummy is dosed with 25 milligrams of CBD and can be purchased in a bottle of 10 or 20. Wild CBD is offering our listeners 30% off their next purchase from wildcbd.com by using the code POD, that's code POD, P-O-D, for 30% off your next purchase. Wild CBD products are intended only for use of individuals aged 18 and older. Wild CBD products should only be consumed as directed on the label and should not be used if you are pregnant or breastfeeding. All Wild CBD products are made with ingredients containing 0% THC. Consult with a health professional prior to using Wild CBD in combination with any medications or other dietary supplements. Now, Brett, we talked about some college football at the top of the show with MACtion going on Wednesday night. Before we get into the Thursday, Friday, Saturday games, do you have an update on how your Buffalo game is going, which is the only game from our episode 89 picks that hasn't been decided yet?
Well, they say don't sing until the game. The fat lady doesn't sing till the game's over, right? But it's 49-30 with 21 seconds left.
So are you singing?
I'm not singing yet because there's still time on the clock, but I feel pretty good that my minus 9.5 is gonna hit in this one. No guarantee, but we're feeling pretty good, Higgins.
Yep, and considering Buffalo has the ball, I think that you should be safe with your 9.5. You don't have to sing. maybe I'll sing for you. But Thursday, we have Utah State at Nevada, Wyoming at Colorado State. Now, I am not going to be on either of those games, but remember Utah State because, Brett, on Friday, you and I are both on the BYU versus Boise State game. And frankly, I don't understand how you're on the other side of me on this one because BYU is 7-0. Boise State is 2-0. And I don't know what's so impressive about Boise State's 2 wins against Utah State and Air Force.
Well, Boise State preseason was thought to have much more talent than BYU, so I'm not going to penalize them because their conference didn't start when an independent started. But
The proof is in the pudding, sir.
the proof is in the pudding. But I'll say this, man. BYU's got to travel up to Boise. I do not know 100% what the fan situation is going to be like, but I imagine there will be fans there in some capacity, probably a limited capacity. And traveling up to Boise is not easy. The team's good. The turf is blue. And those fans, if there are any in there, they'll be loud. They'll have some effect on the game. And I just like Boise State at home with the points. It really doesn't have much to do with the opponent. BYU's been great this season, to your point. Their quarterback, Zach Wilson, I believe is his name. He's been unbelievable this year. He's the first true freshman to ever start a game at BYU. Now, I believe in his second or third year as their quarterback, really come into his own. But I'm going to take the program that I've seen win at home on Thursday night, week in and week out, probably over the last 15 years, and that's Boise State.
See, BYU, their defense is what's selling me on this. The unproven Boise State, who has beaten a 1-2 Air Force team and an 0-2 Utah State team, has me on the fence with how good they can actually be. Now, yes, they deserve their ranking because of what was expected to come from them this season. However, BYU's defense through 7 games is averaging less than 2 touchdowns per game to be given up. The offense is just running away with games. This BYU team, it's just night and day when you have offense and defense out there of the offense is going to score and the defense is going to stop you. And so until Boise plays a top quality defense like that, which Air Force and Utah State don't have, I'm going to go with the BYU minus 2.5. So it looks like we're going to be on opposite sides of this one, and one of us is going to be a winner.
Yeah, I don't want to scare you, but I had the Giants plus 12.5.
Well, it's payback time now. It's payback.
It could very well be payback time. I just wanted to get that little shot in.
Hey, I'm not a fan of BYU or Boise State in this one, so I'm not clouding my judgment trying to be neutral and picking the other side.
There you go. No, I love it. And you know what? What's a podcast between two friends if you can't make a joke, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's take a look at our Saturday games, though, because we have some great conference play coming up. I like some of these Big Ten matchups, specifically Michigan, Indiana, and Michigan is going to get bumped out of the top 25 here. They're going to lose to Indiana, take the Hoosiers plus 130 on the money line. And I mean, Michigan gets ranked early in the season because they have an expectation with that program based off of the history and what Harbaugh does. They typically perform rather well. However, they lost to Michigan State already this year, which is a big loss for them. Should have them rather focused in this game, which is the only part that really scares me. But their one win is against number 21 Minnesota, who just lost to Maryland, who is abysmal and only scored 3 points against Northwestern in their first game. So I don't think Michigan has a good quality opponents. Meanwhile, Indiana upset number 8 Penn State at home to start their season and then got a good win at Rutgers. I'm going to take Indiana.
Yeah, I like everything you said, Higgins. This is a stay away from me personally because I have this feeling like it's a letdown spot for Indiana coming off that Penn State game, but I just don't know if you really let down for Michigan. Like you get up for Michigan if you're
Yeah.
Indiana. So from that perspective, it's just a stay away from me. And honestly, if Indiana wins this game, I'll probably be betting on them a lot more because they'll have my respect.
The
Winning
proof will be
those
in the
two
pudding.
games. Exactly. The proof, they'll be like BYU. The proof will be in the pudding. But speaking of Northwestern, because you mentioned them, I'm actually betting on them this weekend, Higgins.
Okay.
Pat Fitzgerald is 2-0. It's going to be an 11 a.m. kickoff in Chicago. No fans. Nebraska's coming to down. This is the sleep through. Nebraska doesn't play in these games where it's 11 a.m. kickoffs and there's no one in the stadium. This is exactly the game that Northwestern wins. They're 3.5-point favorites. I think they cover that. I think they win this one easy, to be honest with you. I think Nebraska will be sleepwalking in this one, and Northwestern comes out probably, in my mind here, 10-point victory.
Now, I'm going to be rooting for the Huskers in this game.
Oh, yeah.
We know
go
I
Big
lived
Red.
in Nebraska. My dog's named Husker, so I'd be wrong to not root for the Huskers in this game. I'm going to stay away from it because you bring up some good points, but personally, I would expect Nebraska to come out very focused, very angry, and very determined after not only not being able to play Wisconsin last week, but the Big Ten refusing to let them schedule a non-conference game when they potentially had one set up and agreed to with another school. I would not be surprised if Nebraska plays every single one of these Big Ten games with a bit of a chip on their shoulder. Now, Northwestern 2-0, good program, potentially could get their name in a conversation with a third win here being 3-0. It is worrisome. Like you said, it's a noon kickoff,
11 a.m. in Chicago.
11 a.m. in Chicago. But that's the same time that a morning kickoff would be in Nebraska, by the way. So they are used
Oh,
to the central time zone part there.
I just didn't know. Do they give Lincoln, Nebraska, like a noon kickoff time? I didn't realize they would do that. I thought they'd move
When
them
they
to
play like
3:30.
Bethune Cookman,
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay.
they'll occasionally get the noon kickoff. It's
Yeah.
typically with some of their non-conference games that they're supposed to demolish.
Okay. Yeah. They always struck me as like a 3:30 kind of kickoff team, so like a
Yeah,
2:30 local time.
yeah. They don't always get those low times. They do a lot against Northwestern, though.
Yeah,
Actually,
Northwestern gets them against everyone, and that's how Northwestern survives, man. No one's ready to play football at 11 a.m. Northwestern is. That's their time.
well, my other pick that I have, and I've picked them on multiple occasions, so I don't feel like I really need to explain this pick a lot. But Cincinnati, man, Cincinnati has been really good this year. 5-0, 3-0 in conference. They're 3-2 against the spread, though. The only thing that really has me worried against Houston, because I am taking them minus 13.5 against Houston. But Cincinnati, number 6 in the nation, they are eyeing a college football playoff scenario, and they are really trying hard to get their name in that conversation in this really weird 2020 season that may offer the opportunity for a mid-major to get there. And so because of that, I think every game is circled on their calendar. They're truly going week by week. I like how Cincinnati's been approaching this season, and I think they're going to get that 2-touchdown win that they need to cover.
Higgins, I love everything you said, and the extra motivation for Cincinnati is the fact that BYU as an independent is also trying to get into the college football playoff, and those two teams competing against each other really create a scenario where neither one can afford to look unimpressive, because if you look unimpressive one week, you're getting jumped by the other one. And, if you look bad or just win by the skin of your teeth, so both teams have to bring it every week. That being said, I'm not sure if I fully believe both will go undefeated. You know what I mean? Someone will slip up along the line, but that doesn't mean it needs to be this weekend. Both those teams could certainly win this weekend. Both those teams could certainly cover this weekend, but I think you're right. I think they're coming to bring it every week.
I'm sure they'll be focusing on each other a lot too, to your point. I mean, Cincinnati will probably be tuning into BYU pretty heavily on Friday. And BYU on Saturday, most of their eyes will probably be on that Cincinnati game, because you're right. They are absolutely dependent on each other of where they're going to be in that top 10 ranking. And if one slips, the other one is the lone standing star that, if they finish the season undefeated, has a chance. And personally, I'd give Cincinnati the slight edge to BYU, mainly because they'll have a conference championship game to play and BYU won't.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a great reason why that would be a great deciding factor, honestly. But I'm on a few more college football games this weekend, Higgins. I actually couldn't get enough college football. I'm sure I'll even bet on a few more games, because what a great slate we have with the Pac-12 back. We had the MAC return on Wednesday, so it was really the full swing of college football now. And I'm going to start off in Big 12 country. We got West Virginia traveling to UT Austin, and the Longhorns are minus 250 on the money line. Pretty big favorites here, but I'm more interested in the over-under in this one at 55.5. Personally, I don't think either of these teams play great defense, and both offenses can score a lot of points, so 55.5 seems well within reason of this game. Another
Well,
game.
to keep using the term of the day for me of proof is in the pudding, the Big 12 hits overs. The proof is there.
That's actually their slogan, Higgins. Come to the Big 12, hit overs.
Big 12, ... we hit overs.
We hit overs. That's the commercial. If they air anything else on during college football Saturdays, they're doing it wrong.
I agree.
We didn't tune into the Big 12 for unders. That is for certain. Probably the biggest game of the day is Clemson at Notre Dame. Maybe lost a little bit of the shine without Trevor Lawrence, but
who's replacing Trevor?
My guy DJ.
And what's his last name?
DJU. Number 5, man. He can scoot. You're gonna get me to say ukulele. That's close. That's not terrible.
Ukulele, I think is how it is.
Ukulele. I apologize, DJ. I'm not trying to butcher your name. I think you're a very talented kid.
Uyagale.
That could definitely be it. Anyway, I think Clemson minus 5.5 is the play here. Our guy DJ was a 5-star quarterback recruit as well, Higgins. He is no slouch. They still have Travis Etienne. They still have Amari Rodgers. They still have Justin Ross. They still have that defense. They still have that O-line. So Clemson minus 5.5 traveling up to South Bend. Give me that. And then over 51.5. I think that's in play too. I don't think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think both these teams are going to come fired up and eager to score. So I'm expecting some points in this one, and I'm expecting the Clemson to not dominate per se, but to win convincingly and prove that they're the best team in the ACC this year.
I like it, and I think the entire ACC, this is going to be the one time that they're all rooting for Clemson, because I don't think anyone in the ACC wants to let Notre Dame come into the conference for 1 year, run ship all season long, and then just leave with a conference championship. And no, we're going to be independent again this year. Thanks for letting us play, though. Thanks. We appreciate it. Bye-bye now. Yeah, no. everyone in the ACC should be rooting for Clemson in this game. I will be rooting for the Orange. I'll have a Syracuse shirt on, an orange Syracuse shirt on, rooting for Clemson in this one. We'll see if Trevor Lawrence's backup can take on the senior Ian Brooks, though. That's gonna be a tall task.
Yeah, and
Ian Book, sorry.
speaking of orange schools going up against Catholic schools, our Syracuse Orange take on the BC Eagles. We're plus 14.5. I would lean BC minus 14.5. That's just a lean. That's not a pick or anything, but we're talking about Orange versus Catholic, so why not? And then my last game, UCLA at Colorado, because I needed to be on a Pac-12 game, Higgins. The Pac is back. So I'm going to take Colorado at home. UCLA and Chip Kelly travel to altitude. They did not look good at all last season. And I'm going to assume they still don't look good. Colorado's coach Mel Tucker left from Michigan State in the offseason, so new coach. UCLA's never seen it before. Could be a few wrinkles in there. I like Colorado at home with the points.
Okay. Kind of like with how I sat back and watched them action before giving a pick in week 1 of their season. I'm going to do the same with the Pac-12 here. I'll definitely have my eye on the Ducks and the Beavs since I'm in Oregon right now, see how they play. I'm hearing a lot of sports talk talking up the Beavs. So let's see how they do. Both of these teams, though, they have new quarterbacks in their systems, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they come out to a little bit of a rough start early on.
Shout out the Beavs. Luton's getting a start for the Jaguars. The Beavs getting talked up in Oregon. Wow. Great week to be a Beaver.
Absolutely. Stepping out of the shadow of the Ducks is always nice for Oregon State because the Ducks definitely get a majority of the attention, so it's always nice when the Beavs get their deserved credit outside of baseball season.
Adley Rushman, number 1 overall, so that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know any other Oregon State players, but Adley Rushman, there we go.
Let's get into our Levy lock and pick of the pod now, Brett. You win a perfect 3-0. I only gave out 1 pick and I lost, so I think it's pretty clear who's giving out their pick first for our locks.
All right, I'm going to give out my pick first, and it's pretty straightforward, Higgins. The Pittsburgh Steelers are really, really good at football, and the Dallas Cowboys are really, really bad at football. Starting their 4th quarterback on the year, I'm going to go Pittsburgh minus 14 at the Cowboys on Sunday.
And I'm going to be going with the team that the Steelers just beat last week. The Ravens are going to come out focused to play the Colts. Like I said, both of these teams are 5-2, but the quality of losses are much different. The Colts have lost to the Jaguars and the Browns, and the Ravens have lost to the Chiefs and the Steelers. I'd much rather have the Ravens' losses on my resume than the Colts. I think both of them coming in at 5-2. The Ravens are going to get it done. Lamar Jackson's going to get that team back on the right foot. And with the line only at minus 2.5, easy pickings.
There we go. All right. I'm ready for some football, Higgins.
I'm ready for some football, too. Make sure to follow us on social media at NBBpod on Twitter, at NextBestBet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page, because we will have some other picks as we get closer to the weekend and as we hopefully get some wins in and make that bankroll a little bit bigger. Hey, if you're in one of those 3 states that just approved sports betting, congratulations to you. Make sure to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast streaming service or watch us on YouTube or Facebook. Whatever works for you. This has been episode 90 of The Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you again after the weekend.